Good evening, everyone. I am Neeraj Bunkar, a final year PhD scholar at Nottingham Trent University, London, and the organizer of this festival. I am really excited to welcome you all to the fifth session of the Dalit and Adivasi Film Festival, DAFF 2025. It is also the last session of this festival, and this year we have specially curated lineup of 12 films by Dalit and Adivasi filmmakers, and 9 of these films were already screened in our last four sessions. Each screening will be followed by an interactive session with the with the filmmakers. And today's session features three powerful films with a combined runtime of approximately, I think, 1 hour. And we dedicating this festival to PK Rosie, the first actress of Malayalam cinema and a true pioneer in this industry. And for today's session, we will be screening, as I have mentioned, three films. First one is Babasaheb in Bengaluru, a 5 minute short film in Kannada by Mahishaa. It showcases Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's statue in Bengaluru, which stand as powerful symbols of resistance and empowerment by for marginalized communities. Unlike government funded monuments, these statues exist through the people's efforts, embodying his philosophy to educate, agitate, and organize. Each one tells a story of struggle, reminding millions to carry forward his vision of equality and justice. And second, we have his Keri Haadu, Song of Ghetto, uh, a 33-minute documentary film in Kannada by Chandrashekara K. It documents the aftermath of Dalit protest in Dindguru, Karnataka, sparked by caste discrimination. While their movement succeeded, the community now faces harsh consequences. The film captures their daily struggle, resilience, and survival as an act of resistance. And finally, we have Non AC, a 20-minute short film in Nepali and Hindi, directed by Ampi Panyang. It follows Maya and George, immigrants from Nepal, as they struggle to make end meets and survive in Pune, India. Often treated as outsiders, they grapple with the challenges of migration while finding solace in each other's company. As their friendship deepens, it begins to take on a more profound meaning, rooted in the shared longing for a sense of home. The film explores themes of migration, racism, xenophobia, and economic class differences that run deep in Indian society. So let's enjoy the film. Welcome back, everyone, and I hope that you have all enjoyed all three films. And if you have any questions or comment, you can always drop them in the comment section so that we can take them in the discussion. So before we begin, I will just introduce our filmmakers and my discussion participant for the today's session. And the first we have is Mahisha. He is an Ambedkarite filmmaker based in Bangalore, whose work primarily focuses on urban Bengaluru. His films explore the intersection of caste, gender, and masculinity. He is the founder of Nilavarana, an Ambedkarite artist collective that produces short films, music videos, and documentaries centered on Bahujan stories created by people from the DBA community. His works have been showcased internationally, including in Melbourne, Australia, Berlin, Germany, and other locations. And second filmmaker we have is Chandrashekara K. He is a versatile talent in Kannada theatre and cinema, an international actor, director, filmmaker, and pedagogue, specializing in movement and devising. He has participated in several international theatre experiments, traveling to countries like Japan, Germany, Lebanon, South Africa, and Switzerland. Chandrasekhar has played lead roles in Kannada films such as Gavisida and Mahasampark, and has directed innovative plays like Keri Haadu and Panchampada. He holds a postgraduate degree from the Department of Performing Arts at Bangalore University and is a founding member of Jangama Collective, committed to building theatre movements with marginalized communities and sexual minorities. He is also preparing to a collection of his stories for publication. His current performance in the play Bob Marley from Kodihali has further enhanced the production's impact. And finally, we have Ampi Panyang. He's a filmmaker and screenwriter from Arunachal Pradesh, currently based in Mumbai, Maharashtra. She is a graduate of the prestigious Film and Television Institute of India, FTI Pune, specializing in direction and screenplay writing. In addition to her filmmaking career, she is a film professor associated with several renowned film institutes in Mumbai. And today we have co-host Dr. Nikal Thiara. teaches post-colonial and contemporary literature at Nottingham Trent University, UK. Her area of research is Dalit and South Asian literature, and her current research project is the representation of modernity in Dalit literature. So let's begin the discussion. I will just start this discussion by asking the first question to Mahishaa for his film Babasaheb In Bengaluru. So, as you have highlights through your films, the grassroots efforts behind Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's statues in Bengaluru, which is also known as the tech city of India and hegemonized by the upper strata of the Indian society. So, what actually inspired you to focus on these community-driven symbols of resistance rather than the more official, the government-sponsored monument, which is also nowadays you may have seen that this is an ongoing trend that every government to encase the popularity of Ambedkar, the install statues of Ambedkar in every cities. So yeah.
Thank you, Neeraj. First of all, thank you for having us here. Thank you for Trent University for having the screening. To start with, why Babasaheb in Bengaluru? Why the imagery, right? So actually, the initial idea came in when I was walking down in Indranagar. Indranagar is Bangalore posh area, right? It's a street of Bangalore is called a pub city, and that specific road is even more uh, modern, as they say. So I was walking down in that road, and they were actually earlier they were outskirts of Bangalore, right? So when you mean outskirts, that's where a lot of Dalit Adivasi, Dalit Bahujan people would live, right? So now they're kind of co-opted, and now over the last 20 years, post-liberalization, that become a urban city. So I was walking down that road, and you can see a lot of Ambedkar statues there, which is a contradiction. Wherever you see Ambedkar statue, it's mostly considered as Dalit area, which is not impoverished and all that. So then I understood how the city is framed. There is this posh side of Bangalore, but right after those roads, there are the Dalit colonies where Bahujan people live, and again they do come in as the workers and all that. So this contradiction kind of interested me, and then I started noticing Ambedkar images everywhere around the city. And one of the most interesting thing about this was, as you mentioned, a lot of statues are state sponsored, right? The states installs them, and then they pay for it, they inaugurate it. The one of the interesting thing about these statues were they were installed by the people themselves, and especially the people who are actually mostly the working class, who are doing small labor jobs, vegetable shops, who collectively they come together and then pull in money, and then install the statue with their own money. So that was more interesting, how much it meant for them. It is kind of a idea of assertion in the cities, saying that this is our space. And right, even when I walk around the city, when I see a statue of Baba Sahib, I feel a sense of, okay, there's a bit of comfort, right? There is a small space of assertions. I think that's something which I wanted to highlight, and also as a homage to the people who kept it alive, right? The people who are the working class primarily, who have put their hard-earned money to keep the Baba Sahib image alive, even in a city like Bangalore, where it's trying to give an image of very modern, casteless idea of what a city is, but it's not true. It's just invisibilized. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is such an powerful, imageries that you have showcased, and it always, try to put Bengaluru in a different anti-caste lens actually. And yeah, I think I have many questions, but I will just go to my co-host Nicole.
Yeah, I also have so many questions. Thank you all. I loved all your films. I think they're all wonderful, very different, right, in terms of style and length, but they're really all beautiful. So since Mahishaa just got a bit of a chance to explain how his film developed, could I ask the other two, Chandrashekara and Ampi, as well, just how did your project develop? How, what drew you to this particular project? Were there did you always want to do that, or was it more fortuitous potentially, with whatever happened, in the village that Chandrashekara, focused on? So, I don't know. Ampi, do you want to start, and then Chandrashekara?
I'm speaking Kannada. Please, Mahesh, please translate. Yes.
No, but your English is good. Just try it. Go on,
Good, but
try.
you're not understand. Yeah, I am trying. Yeah.
Just try it a little bit, and then Mahisha can always jump in.
Yeah. I'm working with one community in the Dalit community, one production. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಊರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅಟ್ರಾಸಿಟಿ ತರದಾಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ದ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಸಂತೋಷ್ ದಿಲ್ಗೂರ್ ಅಂತ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಅರೇಂಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಆ ಊರಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜಂಗಮ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅದು. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
So basically, Chandra is talking about. So one of the reason he went to that village was one of his friend called Santosh Dindguru, who's also the lead actor of the play. He's from that town, and then he had gone to there because there was an harassment issue where like they did not allow the people from the Dalit community to enter the temple. So Chandra was part of the Jangama collective, and as a part of it, he wanted to go there and kind of see what's going on in the beginning.
Oh, thank you, Mahisha. You contextualize very well, even what Chandra is saying, right? I think what I'm particularly interested in is kind of what came first, right? I mean, did your colleague from Jangama Collective come to you and say, why don't you want to film this? Or did you just think, oh, wow, we really need to support this, this resistance movement by going there, filming it? And at what point did the theatre workshop come into play?
Yes, please. Brief ಮಾಡು ಮಹೇಶ್.
ಅದೇ ಸೊ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂತು ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹಿಂಗ್ ನಡೀತಿದೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಈಗ. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಫಿಲಂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಇದು ಒಂದು ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ಏನಾರು ಅದ್ರ ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡ್ಸಕ್ಕೂ ಹೋಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಡ್ರಾಮಾ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೊಂದು ಸಾಂತ್ವನ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಇರ್ಬಹುದು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಜೊತೆ ಆಗ್ಬಹುದು, ಆ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಜೊತೆ ಆಗ್ಬಹುದು. ಆ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಅರೇಂಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಊರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ಟವರೆಲ್ಲ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಸಾಲ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಕೆಲಸ ಕೊಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರು ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಅದು ನಾನು ಡೈಲಿ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಅನ್ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಅದು 17 ಅವರ್ ಫುಟೇಜ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಟೋಟಲಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಡಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ 33 ಮಿನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್.
So basically, there was a lot of harassment case even after the release, as the film says, they like barred them from getting jobs and a lot of other this thing, right? Social boycott was happening. So Chandra just went in as a representative, not to make a film, or not to make a theater. He just wanted to go and then be there as a part of as a part of solidarity. And then once he went in, once he started, there was no idea of making a film. This is the first film he's made, so there's no idea of making a film. He just went in there, and when he just wanted to record it on his phone. So then that recording, then after recording, to put it on social media and everything, they realized, okay, we have to make a film out of it. And the footage was 17 hours long, and they did not know what to do with it. And then chopping down came to kind of make it into action film.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there will be follow-up questions to that, because I was thinking, how would you even choose? But first, Ampi, do you want to tell us a little? And thanks, Mahisha, for your double duty as translator.
Yes, thank you,
Ampi,
Mahisha.
do you want to tell us a little bit about how your film came into being? Did you always want to make this particular film? How did this beautiful storyline kind of come together?
So yeah, when I was in my third year, this was part of my student project. So I was it was part of my third year. So I actually did not start with a particular idea. I was just going through a lot of whirlwind of emotions. And then I personally, I belong from Arunachal Pradesh, and it's on the northeastern part of the country. And it has a very distinct culture. It has a very distinct tradition and all of that. So I personally, I feel like I've went through a lot of identity crisis my whole life because of the difference in, the culture and the tradition and everything. So I sort of want to talk about that. I sort of want to talk about as the existing racial discrimination that is existing, which has almost become sort of normalized in ways. So I wanted to talk about that emotion particularly, and also about the emotion of being an outsider in a new space, and how you oftentimes feel left out in the day-to-day life schedules, and the whole idea of what is a home, and how do you connect to a place, or how do you feel like you're part of the process or you're part of something. So that segregation is what I felt almost my whole life growing up in India, because I've been everywhere, studying everywhere, all over. So I wanted to explore that emotion basically initially. And then I met a guy who was a street vendor, working as a street vendor in Pune. So this is actually a story inspired from a real life character. And I spent like almost a month talking to him. It was a rigorous 1 month process that I was talking to him, and he was telling about how he feels like an outsider. So he belongs from a Nepali community, which is a very vibrant community in India, who are all mostly like migrants from Nepal, and they come for certain businesses, small businesses, or for seeking for jobs, or mostly for jobs. So I wanted to explore this emotion through a character. So initially I wanted to write a Arunachali character, but I couldn't find any actors as such, because my home is very far away, and I had to so I had to shoot in like 10 days. I got like 10 days to shoot, and I had like 1 month to prep, another month to write my script. So I had to complete the entire process in 2 months and 15 days. So that was the rush that I had to go through. So I knew that it's impossible to bring in an actor from Arunachal and then prep them, because they are mostly non-actors. So I think my main idea was to explore the emotion of racial discrimination, and also xenophobia, and all these classism that exists. So taking this core emotion, I wanted to explore it to a character. So I did not mind taking a Nepali-based community guy, because there was also another reason. It's actually very complicated. So actually, so there was one more reason I chose particularly a Nepali community, because the way I look like, basically people from the eastern part of the country where I come from, they basically look Mongoloid, like they have Mongoloid features. So it's very different from what Indo-Aryans in the North India, like part of the rest of the country. So India is obviously a mix of various racial features and racial people. So I wanted to explore Nepali community and culture, their lifestyle, and their struggles in the city in India, because obviously for the feature that the feature looks alike, and most of the times when I go to North India, like I was in Delhi, I was in Pune, and now I'm in Bombay. So like people get confused whether I'm a Nepali woman, because obviously we look similar. So this was one of the second reason why I explored the Nepali community, because I sort of want to explore the idea of how people stereotype based on looks. So these two major ideas, coming from emotion of feeling left out, and also like how people judge you based on how you appear. So combining these two emotions, I wanted to explore this through a character. So I think that was how it started, and eventually the story was obviously partially fictional and partially based on the character that I met. So yeah, and eventually it came along nicely, and I mean that's how it went along. It came naturally after that.
Yeah, it feels quite a natural, the story. I mean, you said you were in a rush, but it doesn't feel rushed at all, right? I mean, you can really kind of make yourself comfortable in the film, and you just feel like you're with them. And I think emotionally, it has an enormous impact. Again, I have lots more follow-up questions, but I'll pass on to Neeraj now. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a follow-up question to Ampi, but she already answered that. Why did she particularly choose to depict the story around the Nepali character? So I would go now to, I think, Mahishaa again. That is like a 5-minute long film, that. So the duration is short, but it is so impactful that you could capture the impact of Ambedkar statue in Bengaluru. But do you think that it is also important to showcase Ambedkar's legacy in Bengaluru in a that more that bit lengthy manner? Like, are you do you have any sort of a planned project that you are planning to work in the future around the Ambedkar in Bengaluru. And also the statue aspect is so much important, but there is also so much debate among the Ambedkar community and anti-caste community that Ambedkar was against, that statue, but not in like general, but he was only against this statue, installing statue of himself. So what do you think that the statues are important, and the runtime as well, that you can, that make it more lengthy as well?
Mhm. Yeah, that's something which, again, this has been a project which is longer. So basically, when we launched Nilavarna, like exactly 3 years ago, this 14th, we'll be celebrating a 3-year anniversary. So I launched it with one small video, which with a similar aesthetic. So basically, it was made for Babasaheb's 131st birthday. So I made a video which is like 1 minute 31 seconds long. So that was the origins of this particular project. But that was just a montage of all the Ambedkar statues in the city. And one of the interesting thing about it is that I could only capture like 25% of whatever the statues are. And even whatever capture, it's not completely in the film because I couldn't fit all of them. That's where the collage effect comes in, right? To show the scale. Um, and then there is like 75% of the area which I wasn't able to physically, you're not able to kind of capture. Now I was like walking around a few days ago, and there is another statue is going to be installed right 2 kilometers away from where I live right now. So because of Ambedkar Jayanti, which is coming along. In terms of expanding, again, again, like this, that was done in 2022. Now, last year I made this project, which is like I kind of expanded on it to add more content, add more. This is the first time putting myself on camera, where like I'm talking about in a very personal way. I had people from the community talking about their experience, because when I made that initial video, there was this question of, oh, isn't it just idol worship? That's something which you're saying, and there's a general conversation. Isn't just idol worship? Isn't just something which Ambedkar kind of did not want to kind of this thing, which is again a bit gray area. That was not literally what he said, but for my approach has been because the lived experience in the film. One of the student activists, Bharat, he speaks about how he like once a lot of people like families like mine moved to Bangalore, they kind of try to Sanskritize themselves to kind of like to get involved in the most upper caste communities, right, and leave out whatever which are caste signifiers. So once they start doing that, the Babasaheb statue, photo or any kind of imagery kind of left in the from the house. So like seeing that in your area, and especially Dalit Bahujan community are mostly people from the most community where like the access to education was denied till very recently, right? And our parents or grandparents did not have access to kind of go read books, right? That's what I keep the Ambedkar's book or whatever. There's only select few. And then having the imagery, visual imagery, that's where the place of visual imagery plays in. Visual imagery everywhere. Even though that generation could not, the next generation like us who grew up watching Ambedkar statue now can say, oh, there is a statue. Now, what does it mean? Then we proceeded to search for his philosophy, his books, what he's written about. So the saying just as simple as it's just idol worship is like the most non-nuanced way of saying it, because there's a lot of nuance in terms of imagery, putting it out there. And we have been seeing over the last 20 years, the next generation of Ambedkarites, like they have kind of tried to take ideas of Babasaheb in a next level to kind of through media, film, and writing, right? So that's something which I feel about the idol worship thing. And in terms of expanding further, I don't know, like even with my short films and all, there are imageries of Babasaheb there, because again, that does showcase how the city is placed and all that. So one of the interesting thing which I would like to share is that when I was shooting this one video, there's this one statue, and right next to the statue, there is going to be a board or a plaque which kind of says when it was installed, who installed it, when was inaugurated. So there's this one plaque, but it was empty. It was like painted out white. And I was like shooting this thing, and then there's a small cigarette shop right next to it. And then some couple of boys come in. It's like, hey, what are you shooting? Why are you shooting for? Because they were a bit hesitant initially. Why are they shooting it for? And I said, hey, I'm doing a video for Ambedkar Jayanti, and this is the idea. And they got very excited. Somebody's like, and they said, actually, my father is the one who installed the statue, right? He kind of went around, collected the money from the community and organized and installed the statue. But when they did install the statue, the local MLA, the local politician came in and like, you need to put my name in it, even though he had nothing to do with it. So this person, his person's father is like, I will not have anyone's name on it. Even I don't want my name on it. I want the statue. I would not put in the name of a person who had nothing to do with it, because it's a community thing. So in that one, he decided to keep it blank. So there are a lot of stories like this, which are like individual story, which can be made into small mini series or even larger of its own. But again, that's like people can. I think it's like I think that's how community work can go process, where like either me or anyone can take it forward and kind of explore the smaller nuances of it. Because this was to kind of have the larger picture in a 5 minute so that people get a glimpse of what this means. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Like actually, the reason behind the asking this question is because I could see that there is a lot of potential around the statues. This is not only the statues, but there are multiple stories. The very interesting story you have recently said now. So that's why this is a suggestion and observation that if you can explore the specialty in a bit lengthy manner, so that we could also have that opportunity to witness more from the Bengaluru side. Yeah. Nicole,
Definitely.
if you can go for the other question. Yeah.
Lovely. Yes. Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, I have also questions for Mahisha, but I'm gonna let's go in line. I think that that makes perfect sense. So, Chandrashekara, it's your turn again, and of course, Mahisha, that means you're up as well in one way or another. Well, I mean, you told us a little bit about how this project started, right? It was almost like yes, it developed gradually, and you had lots of footage. So when you put the footage together, what kind of choices did you make? Because there seems to be a lot of experimentation, right? Sometimes, you feel like a shot is slowed down just before we cut to something else. And then there are some shots where you just see images of the temple with kind of quite eerie, music overlaid. And then there is, of course, there are images from rehearsing in the workshop, but there also seem to be material from an actual drama production. So there's a lot of things going on, and the whole thing is framed by songs as well, which are not always subtitled. So how did you go about it? Because it just feels like quite an artistic film in many ways, which has sort of proper documentary style parts, but then also much more artistic parts. So how did this go about? And yeah, sorry, Mahisha, it was a bit longer.
ಚಂದ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ?
Maybe I
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೇಳಿ.
follow-up question, Nicole, maybe, because then he
Yes,
can
yes.
answer in lengthy manner. Because this is similar to what you have asked, like the title of your film also, like Song of Ghetto, the Keri Haadu, also suggests a very, the poetic framing of a harsh reality.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, I just wanted to ask that how did you actually balance the, that depicting and documenting the rawness of the lived experiences and also incorporating the artistic elements like framing and then putting the sequences one after another, and also in the introduction shot you have shown the aerial shot as well. So what was the idea and the behind this filmmaking aspect? So now you can merge both the question and maybe answer and take a little more time.
ಹೇಳೋದ ಚಂದ್ರ ಅವ್ರೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ.
Yes, please.
ಸೊ ಇವ್ರು ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳೋದು ಅಂತ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹೊತ್ತವರೆಗೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದೊಂದು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೋ ಮೋಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಅಂಡ್ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಾರರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ತರ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಹಾಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇವರು ನೀರಜ್ ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಟೈಟಲ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕೇರಿ ಹಾಡು ಅಂತ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸಾಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೆಟೋ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂಥರ ಪೊಯೆಟ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ಹೆಂಗ್ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ? ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಇತ್ತು ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಇರುವಾಗ ಚಾಯ್ಸಸ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಓವರ್ ಆಲ್ ಆಗಿ?
ಓಕೆ, ನಾನು ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಬಂದು ನಾನು ಸೇಮ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ, ದಲಿತ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ಅದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ನನ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತದು, ಏನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಇಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಆಕ್ಟರ್ನ ನಾನು ಇಂಟ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಒಬ್ಬೊಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಇಂಟ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ನಾನು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಹೊತ್ತು ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ರಾತ್ರಿ ಹೊತ್ತು ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಫ್ರೀ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಲಗ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ನನಗೆ ಜಾಗ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಅಂತ ಉಳಿತಿದ್ದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಅಂತ ಮಲಗ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. 1.5 ಮಂತ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಭವನ ಇತ್ತು, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಭವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಉಳಿತಿದ್ದೆ, ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ನನ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ಇದು 2ನೇ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಗೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್. 3ನೇ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಸ್ಲೋ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾಕೆ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅದು RR ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ತರ ಹಾಕಿದೀರಾ, ಆ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಹೌದು, ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಹಂಗೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದು, ಅಪ್ಪರ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಅವರು ದಲಿತರು ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಒಂಥರ ಈ ತರ ಕ್ರೂಡಾಗೆ ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಗಳೇ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ, ಒಂದು ಕೆರೆ ನೀರ್ ಕುಡಿತಾರೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದ್ರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಒಬ್ಬರು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ, ನಾ ವಿ ಎಲ್ ನರಸಿಂಹಮೂರ್ತಿ ಅನ್ನೋರು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ನನಗೆ ಏನು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ಸಲ್ಲ. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೂ, ಅವಾಗ 40 80s ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅನುಭವಿಸಿದ್ವಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಈಗ ನಾವು 20th ಸೆಂಚುರಿಲಿ ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತೇವೆ. ಏನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಆ, ಬ- ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳಾಗಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಆ, ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಈ ಜಾತಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗೆ ಆ ತರ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಆತಂದ್ರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಇವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇಕ್ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟರ್ಗೆ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನೀರ್ ಮುಟ್ಟಕ್ ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ. ಈ ತರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಈಗಲೂ ಅನುಭವದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀನಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈಗಲೂ ಅದು ಲೈವ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ಆ ತರ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
ಲಾಂಗ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಬಟ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ಲಿ he's talking about how because he's from the community, he would understand, he has a personal experience understanding what this means, what how kind of he perceives it, right? So while shooting it, again, he had no idea of making the film and all that, right? He had never shot anything more apart from phone. So while doing the rehearsal, kind of, he would go there, and after finishing the rehearsal, he would go to their houses where he would stay, he would eat with them, he would stay with them, and then cover with his phone, like shoot the event and all that. So that personal experience, personal interaction, just being there, that kind of helped kind of shoot. And in terms of the shot choices and all that, is basically that's how the people see us. Like these temples, he's saying about, there's not much difference between then when Ambedkar kind of fought to kind of enter the temple, and even till now. Even till now in the villages and all that, there's not much entry to temples, or don't have access to the public drinking water, even now. So even though it's been like 70, 80 years, there hasn't been much difference now. So he wanted to portray the temple normally how it's shown in a very as a public space. But we see it as a kind of a space which is not have does not have access. That's why the kind of music takes that ominous tone of the film. Yeah. And I miss ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳಿ.
ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದ್ ಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಕೇರಿ ಹಾಡು ಅಂತ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅದು ಪೊಯಿಟಿಕ್ ಹೆಸರು ಬಂತಂತ, ನನ್ನ ಜಂಗಮ್ಮ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನದಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸದಸ್ಯರುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಇರೋದು ಅದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೊಲಾಬ್ರೇಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರೋರು, ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರೋ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಬಂದು ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ರಿಹರ್ಸಲ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಪರ್ಕ ಸಿಕ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಣ, ಮನೋಜ, ಬೇರೆಯವರೆಲ್ಲ ಶ್ವೇತಾ, ಶ್ರದ್ಧಾ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದು ಕೊಲಬರೇಟಿವ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಂಗ ಆತರ ಆಯ್ತು. ಶೃಂಗಾರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶೃಂಗಾರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಎಸ್.
So the title came in as a part of, because it's a song of the ghetto. Even the process was very much like all the people would come in, and they, these are the first time actors who would come in and share their stories, and then try to make weave into a script where it's done as a community. And a lot of people from Jangama collective, like Lakshman, Manoj, Santosh, they were part of making the play. So that's how, like, as it's the stories about a community which is made through a community and then kind of written in a community notice. Even the editing process he was mentioning, it was edited by a person called Shungar. So even like that was a very collaborative process where like he bought his thing and kind of sat down with him for a very long time and kind of went through it. So yeah.
I mean, it was a really successful project. I mean, it feels very complete. It feels very artistic, and I mean, I watched it twice, and every time I saw a lot more things. That's why I have so many questions
Yes,
still.
thank you.
But I think it also helps, that you're part of Jangama Collective, right? So you're used to this collaborative approach, and it does really feel, the theater elements of your background. I can see them in this film, and I think it gives it a beautiful vibrancy. But it is also sometimes there are also these kind of Brechtian alienation effects almost, right? When we see that person walking down the road and then those two dogs. And I mean, later, if we have time, I might ask you questions about why there are so many goats. But I wonder whether, Neeraj, should we go
Yeah,
to
I
the
think
audience questions and maybe ask Mrigakshi's first and then Judith's?
yeah, definitely, because of the time concern, I think we should go for the audience question, because now Mahishaa already talking, so I think we can go for the Ampi's question from Mirgakshi. So she is actually asking that the films were beautiful and congratulations to everybody. And then I have a question for MP, that Are you planning on making any more films about the tribes of Arunachal? I believe there is a significant need for more representation of these communities in films. So yeah, Ampi, you can go.
So basically, my whole idea to start filmmaking was to obviously revive parallel cinema in India, which started from 50s, ended in 70s, late 70s. So obviously, Arunachal as a state do not have a proper cinema in itself. It started with a propagandist cinema right from the 80s to late 90s, and then its resurgence is only now coming up. So I obviously wanted to talk about more regional stories and regional content. I obviously want to do that, and that was my intent to make films in the first place, to tell stories from my place, to explore the communities that we lack in the mainstream. And I think stories are everywhere. And as a filmmaker, you decide what you want to talk about. I think that's the voice that you have as an artist. And my personal choice was to obviously tell stories from my place. And that is why when I was part of a film school also, I never sort of made any Hindi films or any Marathi films or any sort of films that would come to me easily being in Pune. But I always focused on telling stories from Arunachal. And I did that being part of film school also. And I strive to do that in future as well. And I'm based in Mumbai right now, but I definitely see myself working in Arunachal in the long term. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mrigaxi, for asking, and thank you, MP. Now I have one more question from Judith. She's asking to, I think, Mahishaa, that thank you for all the films, and I'm wondering whether you thought about working with PhD scholars who are working on the representation of Ambedkar. Like she's asking this in the frame of the extending the project. There are also anthropologists who would probably be interesting in working across media and genres, like in this context. In the same way, anthropologists have been working with graphic novel artists. So yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to. That collaboration between academics, it kind of gives me a bit of ego boost because I never went to college. So that kind of like I've been invited to a lot of universities and just present the film like locally. Actually, like I've been kind of the based on the original one which I made like back in 2020, the smaller video. That was taken as an example for Christ University. They had released a small paper for the thesis where they have a kind of a they had a program to kind of explore imageries in the city, and one of the topic for that semester they had taken were about exploring Ambedkar statues in the city. And when they were researching, they came across my um, work, and that kind of really I had somewhere over here, but they had released a paper exploring the same idea. But again, the same idea can be explored through several different angle about their experiences and all that. But again, that kind of collaboration is much needed, and I would love to take part if anyone kind of is interested.
Yeah, thank you, Maisa. And I think uh, we are already run out of time. So I think
Oh, surely not. Sorry.
we'll just conclude maybe. But yeah, if you have any last question, maybe Nicole, you can go, and then
Oh, can I ask a few more questions? Just because when will we have all of you here? Well, Ampi, I was just wondering, I think it's sort of a two-part question. I was interested in the locations you chose, right, which are reflected in the title, right? Non-AC, because I mean, I know you wanted to convey this sense of isolation, and you do that really well because you have these you choose these locations which are in some ways kind of private but also kind of public, because it's a hotel, and even when they're in their own, in their places where they sleep, they're never really alone, right, because it's always a sort of a shared accommodation. But it's a really strange kind of, this tension that they're either in places where they're in public, like the street or in the hair salon, where they still seem really isolated and alone. And in these other places which are never quite private. And it's, I mean, how did you go about choosing these locations? Because I think they really help create this feeling that you bring across so well.
So basically, the location was decided based on the characters, the protagonists, both the male and the female. So obviously, when I talk about Nepali community of migrants from Nepal coming to India for looking for jobs, they mostly work in this kind of jobs. Working in parlors, working in spa centers, working at various places, which are like odd jobs. So it came naturally with the character. I developed the job profile, and along with that, with the characterization, it came naturally, and that's how it got placed. And I think space itself is a very important aspect in this film, because we're also talking about the idea of home and isolation, and this whole feeling of finding home in a big city. And of course, in India, there are multiple people across different states, and also places like Nepal, which are neighboring country. There are a lot of people coming from Nepal and Bangladesh and neighboring states, which come to India to looking for jobs. So I also wanted to sort of explore that universally, the whole idea of struggling and hustling in the big city, and amidst that hustling, how do you find mid ground? How do you survive? How do you sort of exist? How do you tell yourself that you should go on? And I think the characters in the movie do that. They are home to each other, and that's how they connect to each other. Yeah. So I think it's a delicate dance between space and identity.
Yeah, it's beautiful the way you kind of keep it up, and also the way that there's almost no soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
So there are hardly any other sounds apart from the ones that you filmed, and I think that makes it really quite beautiful. Thank you very much, Ampi. And I think these are questions that kind of maybe the last questions for everybody, because I think I know the answers a little bit with Mahishaa and Chandrashekara, but I will still ask them nevertheless. But Ampi, do you feel like you're part of a community of filmmakers, or do you feel like you are sort of a trailblazer, the first doing it, or do you feel part of a community? Because I know Chandrashekara is part of Dangama, and Mahishaa still has to tell us about the collective that he is part of and he created. But how do you feel?
So basically, I am the first person from Arunachal to have studied in a film school. I have obviously think that's a huge responsibility, because it always comes with a lot of expectations from your own people back home. Also, when you're representing your state outside the state, there's this major question about what do people do there? How do they look like? What do they eat? How do they dress? This whole exotic gaze happening. And there's a lot of pressure that way. And especially as an artist, to talk about your culture, your region, and to sort of represent that into your art form, especially in cinema, it's a difficult job to do, and it's also a lot of responsibility. But I definitely think there are artists in the state where I come from, but I definitely think I'm one of the first persons who are actually trying to sort of revive parallel cinema in Arunachal, because like I mentioned in my previous answer that in Arunachal, cinema started being a propagandist movement, where this whole idea of nation building was happening in the late 70s and 80s in the Northeast region, especially where I come from. And the whole media was governed by the union government, and Arunachal as a state was always seen, because Arunachal only became a state in the 1987. Before that, it was a union territory. It was a UT. So this whole idea of Arunachal not being part of the mainstream, people look different, the culture is different, they might drift away from India, and this whole exotic gaze that was happening. So this whole outsider-insider gaze that was going on. So the government always sort of wanted to display that Arunachal should be part of the union, and through cinema they tried to do that. But the cinema that was existing at that time was mostly newsreels about nation building and about how to learn Hindi as a language. So where I come from, we have 115 different languages. So we do not have a script, but we speak in Hindi because that's the common tongue there. But it was almost sort of installed there. So Hindi as a language was installed by the union government. So that's how the whole idea of propaganda came in cinema as well. So definitely, as of now, there are artists coming up, not only in Arunachal, but also the entire northeastern part of the country. And I think that narrative has been left out in the long term, and people are now only even in the mainstream. If you look at Bollywood cinema right now, they would depict a character from the Northeast, where they try to explore a character from the Northeast, but it's not very done in a more in depth, you can say. It's just on a very surface level. So that sort of things are still going on, and definitely my attempt is to do the authentic representation through my films, talk about stories of our places, and I think that's the whole attempt to sort of revive regional cinema in your own way, I think.
Well, thank you so much, Ampi, and well, it's a big burden in a way on you, right? Placed on you, but I think you're carrying it very well, very well done. Thank you so much. And I know Mahishaa and Chandrashekara, do you want to talk about your respective collectives that you're part of?
So I was actually whatever Ampi shared, like I had no idea about the propaganda movement and the kind of how the cinema was installed there, even with the language that I find very fascinating. I'm finding out now, even though I'm living down south, but yeah. So that's quite fascinating. I'd like to look it up, learn more, and actually hope like more film comes from you and more people from Arunachal Pradesh. And Mike, again, I run a collective called Neelavana Media, which is an Ambedkarite artist collective specifically focused to create content in Kannada. So we started 3 years ago. The idea was to kind of have a community in the core idea of it, right? And to kind of have us to tell our own stories where nobody else is kind of telling your stories, where they're remodifying it. We want to tell our own stories with our own people, who understand. But initial idea came in when in my early 20s, I was like, as a Dalit person, again, to kind of say it out loud, right, itself is a taboo, and a lot of people are not there. People will say, you don't say that you're Dalit, you might not get opportunities and all that. So I was saying like, I wanted to go into the mainstream Kannada film industry, but when I did try to, but again, I was saying like there was a movement happening in Tamil cinema, which is like a neighboring state, and then Maharashtra has own movement going on, the other state. But if I'm trying to make something here in Kannada, because I do want to make in the language which my people understand, right? Who do I go to? I'm like, there's no one at the moment. Like there is no kind of a mentor, like a big production house which will back what I started. And then that was lingering with me for like a few years. And then I was like, okay, they may not be anything right now, but when maybe down the line, when I do hopefully become a big film director, I don't want a younger person who's in my position kind of feel the same way, where like they feel lost, they feel like there is nowhere to go. So I was like, okay, I rather start now. But I don't have money, I don't have any this thing. I had few friends who are from the community. We'll just band together and create a community and have a space for ourselves. That's how we started. Over 3 years, we have kind of able to kind of build it over and kind of collaborate with other collectives like Neelavana, and there's a lot of other collectives locally as well. Collaborate and kind of find more artists and all that. So kind of we had to kind of build that kind of community in the city. So hopefully we kind of expand to more neighboring cities and all that. But yeah, like I think we had to kind of forcibly build that community, build that space, and create that. Neelavana in Kannada means Neela means blue, which is a color of equality, like Ambedkar movement. Avana means platform. The idea is to create a platform for ourselves, platform for our people. So that was a core idea of it, and we're kind of on our way to kind of do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Chandrashekara, do you want to have
Yes.
the last word on Jangama? And is Jangama making films now?
Yeah. Even making one movie in future movie. In Anil Rebur in one Jangama collective, one member is in one future movie completed, not released. Yeah. The Jangama means just not to stay in one space. Is flow. Jangama means flow. Yeah, Jangama collective is one name. And ನನಗೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಈ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಈ ತರ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನನ್ನ ಸ್ಪೇಸು ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ನಾನು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಥವಾ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಶೂಟು ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಬಟ್ ನನಗೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿದೆ ಈಗ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಕಥೆಗಳು ಯಾರು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಹೇಳಕ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಥೆಗಳಿದೆ. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಹಂಗೆ ಹೈರಾರಿಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಹೈಜಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಥೆಗಳು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೈಜಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಥೆಗಳು ನಾವೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ನಾವ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಈಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಮುಂದೇನು ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿಗಳನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ಊರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿಗಳನ್ನ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಈ ತರದ ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಇಡೀ ಪ್ರಪಂಚಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಆಸೆ.
So basically, he's talking
ವಿಷಯ
about. Sorry, sir. Last ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿಸಿಲ್ಲ.
ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಆಸೆ.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so basically he's talking about how he didn't want to make a film. He didn't go into kind of make film because his space is theater, his place is acting. But when he started making this film, he realized that a lot of other stories which are told about the community told by the other perspective, like the upper caste perspective, right? And there's a lot of appropriation, hijacking of the stories happening where they're telling our stories very not so authentically, at the same time kind of taking the how do you say, kind of credibility, right? Saying that, oh, we are telling the authentic stories. So Chandra is saying he believes in going forward. We want to tell our own stories, and only then the kind of they will have the kind of a value and the strength. And then going forward, he wants to kind of make more stories, go to smaller towns, and then find out these kind of smaller stories and kind of showcase them from our perspective itself, rather than the dominant perspective.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, Neeraj, I'm done now. Thank you.
I
I still have questions. I have 2 pages full worth of questions, but I think everything that was really urgent, I asked.
Yeah, I think it was this is the that good point where we can conclude our discussion, where all the filmmakers have discussed about their future and that ambition in the filmmaking, as well as in their own a space of whatever they are doing in terms of mobilizing community and then collective they have formed. So yeah, thank you Mahisha, and thank you like Ampi, Chandrashekara, and Nicole for you too, for this kind of engaging and insightful discussion. And I would because this is our final and the last session of this festival, DAFF, and we are concluding this festival with this wonderful panel and this discussion. So at this point, I would like to thank Nottingham Trent University's Post-Colonial and Global Studies Research Group and the Center for Research in Literature, Linguistics and Culture, and Bonington Gallery for their support in organizing this entire festival. And I would also appreciate our wonderful audience for joining throughout all the session we have organized. And in case like our audience, if they have missed the previous sessions, while the films are no longer available for viewing, but you can still watch and catch all the discussion that are live on our YouTube channel, Bonington Gallery's YouTube channel. So hope to see you all the filmmakers and all the people who have joined for this festival, for the next festival, maybe next year. Until then, bye bye. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neeraj.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.